welcome back to Franchi Talks Japanese Art. I am Franchi, and if you have been on my channel before or if you have seen my videos recently, you probably know that I am in the midst of making a Japanese art history series of videos here on YouTube. So I thought I was going to publish the next video of that series next, about the Kofun period. But then I thought, well, let's take it easy. It's the holidays and it's the lockdown. So I thought it might be fun and relaxing to share a video on a kind of more fun topic. And I don't think we need more excuses than that. So I want to look at the ultimate form of escapism, which, yeah, you get it, for me, it's Pokemon. Now, you may or may have not noticed before that, yeah, I like Pokemon. I am a Pikachu fan, and I was really excited actually when, as of late, I shared one of my videos about the Yayoi period online, and I received a lot of comments from the viewers who mentioned to me, well, some of the objects you show in this video actually remind me of some Pokemon. So I thought, let's have a look at Pokemon, let's have a look at this topic and see if I can find some more similarities between objects of Japanese art history and the designs of Pokemon. So let's jump right in. Now, I think that everyone on this planet by now has seen or heard of Pokemon, and almost everyone knows what it is. In case you don't know, I'm just gonna introduce it in a nutshell. Pokemon is a Japanese media franchise. It was started in 1996 and it started as a video game, but as of now there's been everything. There's been several video games, movies, animated series, books, comic books. You think it probably exists. And the idea behind this series is that there is a world in which these creatures exist. They are Pokemon, which is a short word for pocket monsters, and these Pokemons, they can be caught, they can be trained by Pokemon trainers, and they can be used in non-lethal battles. It's not as bad as it sounds. So we'll be looking at Pokemon, their design, and I will try to find out if which of them were inspired by objects of Japanese art history. More precisely, for this video I'm going to be looking at designs that I think were inspired by objects from the prehistory and proto-history of Japan. So this includes the Jomon period, the Yayoi period, and the Kofun period. So let's have a look. So the first Pokemon that I would like to look at today is Baltoy. Baltoy is a Pokemon which is some kind of a clay figurine. It has some flat appendages that are arms and one spike that protrudes from its head, and instead of leg it has one single also spike on which it moves around. And on its head there are some kind of eyes, although they are very circular and they're always closed. And it is said in the Pokemon world that there are cave paintings, and in these paintings they were painted in the ancient times by prehistoric people, and in them you can see Baltoy living in commune, living together with people from the ancient times. Now this little detail is actually a hint to where the design from Baltoy came from. In fact, if we look at the prehistory of Japan, we can also find some clay figurines. They are called dogu, and they are dated to the Jomon period. These dogu figurines were made of very simple earthenware, and they probably had ritual use. We don't know exactly how they were used, but we often find them buried, and when we unbury them, they're dismembered. So for example, they're missing limbs like arms or legs. This means that they were probably broken prior to the burial, so maybe they had some sort of ritual connected to the human body. Dogu could represent either animals or humans, and when they represent humans, they are not very realistic in the way they depict them. So there is one specific type of dogu which is called coffee bean eyes. It's just a denomination, and if we look at it, the design is very similar to the one of Baltoy. Of course, just like dogu in general, the meaning behind this type of dogu is unknown to us. There is a lot of different theories, and one of them by the author Tsuji Nobuo is that they could be some depiction of some deities about which now we don't know anything anymore, unfortunately. Baltoy has an evolution, it's called Clay Doll, and I think this is also maybe inspired by Dogu figurines, although it is a little bit more creative in its design compared to Baltoy. The next Pokemon that I would like to look at is Bronzor. Bronzor is a flat circular Pokemon which is round, and it has some bulges all around its rim. It has 2 yellow eyes and 1 round nose at its center. In the Pokemon world, Bronzor is actually found in ancient tombs, and there is a lot of research being done about Bronzor because scientists from the Pokemon reality are looking into it. They think that Bronzor used to be reflective. And there is also some kind of legend amongst the people that Bronzor could be polished, and once polished it would become reflective, and what is reflected in it will be the truth. But because of this, Bronzor hates it. He hates being polished. Now I think this is super interesting because in ancient tombs from Japan specifically, we found mirrors. These mirrors date from the Yayoi and Kofun period. They are made of bronze, and just like many other bronze objects from this time, for example, bells, mirrors of course, swords, spearheads, these objects came from the mainland. They came from China. From China they went into the Korean Peninsula, and through the Korean Peninsula they also arrived into Japan. And then once these objects were present in Japan, the people from the Japanese territory also learned how to produce metal objects, and so they produced their own as well. Now, because bronze mirrors are usually found in big important tombs from the time, it is thought that they probably had some kind of ritual use. Because of their shape and decoration, it is believed that they may have a connection to the divine. So how is this object mirror? The side in which we see Bronzor's face is actually the back of the mirror. That little round nose, it is actually a kind of knob that would be used to handle it, and through the knob there would have been a textile rope which was actually used to hold the mirror. And on the other side instead, that's the side that in real life it would have been polished, and therefore it would have been reflective. Although when we see these objects in museums today, it's very hard to find reflective ones. Most of them are opaque and do not work as mirrors anymore. But it's understandable because they are incredibly old. It is interesting to also look at the name of the Pokemon. In this case, Bronzor, the English name, is of course a play on words between bronze and mirror, and the Japanese name is Do Mirror, and this is also play on words. The first word is Dokyo, which is the Japanese word for angel mirror, and the second part is of course the English word mirror. Bronzor as well has an evolution, and this evolution I think is inspired by some objects from Japanese prehistory as well. And this evolution is Bronzong. Bronzong is a Pokemon which is in the shape of a kind of bell, It is a big Pokemon with 2 arms on its sides. It has eyes in its center and funny teeth, so a mouse with funny square teeth. And when Bronzong gets angry, he can scream, and its scream sounds like a bell. And it is said that Bronzong can make it rain, and when it rains, of course, it increases the harvest, and for this reason, it has been called the bringer of plentiful harvests. And for some people in the Pokemon world, it is considered almost a deity. Now, I think that we can say that Bronzong was inspired by bells from the Yayoi period in Japan. Just like I mentioned before, for mirrors, bells also came from China. In China, they were known as Bianzhong or Zhong, which is spelled Zong, like Bronzong. And these bells in China were used at first to hang from the necks of animals, and then they developed into some kind of musical instrument which is found usually in burials, and therefore it's probably related to some burial practices or rituals. The bells were imported or introduced into the Korean peninsula, and from the Korean peninsula they were also introduced into Japan. In Japan as well, the bells made of bronze, they also acquired some kind of ritual use, we believe. And this is because we usually found them buried on top of hills, and therefore scholars believe that they may have a connection with rituals that have to do with harvesting or fertility of the crops. And in Japan, bells went from being small and simple objects to quite large objects, almost 1.5 meters long tall are the biggest, and from simple to quite nicely decorated. The decoration of these bells is usually of a kind of bands or a grid pattern, like a geometric design of bands, and sometimes they also can have different motifs such as water streams and sometimes also people or animals. The last Pokemon that I would like to look at today is Honedge. Honedge is a Pokemon in the shape of a sword. It's grey and it has also a grey hilt, but in the hilt there is some kind of blue gem which might be its eye, and also at the hilt it's attached blue ribbon like a tassel, and Honedge also has a sheathed form which has a motif of semicircular lines and also teeth on it. Now Honedge is in the shape of a sword, but when we look at it, we don't immediately connect it to Japanese swords. That is because usually when we think of Japanese swords, we are thinking of katana. Katana is a beautiful curved blade with only one single sharp edge, and that's what we usually think of. But katana only started being made in Japan from the 12th century onwards. And before then, of course, there were already swords, there were already blades, they just came in a different shape. These swords that I'm thinking of when I connect Honedge to a Japanese sword are actually ken. These kind of swords have a straight blade with both of the edges sharpened, and these were produced in Japan from at least the 3rd century CE until the 6th century CE. And they were introduced like all the other objects I talked about today, not all of them, apart from the figurines. They were also made of bronze or other type of metal, and they were introduced from China. They were based on Chinese models. For example, we can think of some tasseled straight swords such as the Jian. So I think if we look at the Honedge and we think of these ancient ken swords, we may be onto something for the origin of its design. So this is it for my Pokemon video of today. I hope that you enjoyed discovering with me what could be the origins of certain Pokemon designs. I actually enjoyed looking through lists of Pokemon. If you want to find out more about these periods of Japanese art history from which we saw certain objects of, such as the bells of the clay figurines, you can check out my other videos. I will link the playlist now at the end, and you can see there is already videos regarding the Jomon period and the Yayoi period, and the Kofun period will also arrive soon, I hope. And don't forget that if you would like to see more of my videos in the future, you can always choose to subscribe. In fact, you can also let me know what you think about this video in the comments, because I enjoyed researching Pokemon and I am getting more ideas for other Pokemon or pop culture related videos, because I think personally that when it comes to animation or video games, they are of course also a form of art, so they definitely have a space in this channel. You can also choose to follow me on Facebook or Instagram, just so if you would like to keep in touch with me. And if you would like to support me, you can also leave a tip on the website Coffee. I can use the money to buy myself coffees and keep me awake and give me energy to make more videos. I can always do with that. But for now, I'll just link all these links in the description box of this video, and I just hope to see you again soon, and make sure to enjoy your holiday. Bye!